You know, video games don't have it easy when it comes to film adaptations. Usually, movies based on them are average, bad, or complete flops. I've prepared for you the 10 worst movies based on video games. I could easily include 20 titles here, but for some inexplicable reason, I actually like some of these cinematic disasters. Maybe it's pure nostalgia, or the lingering flame of youthful infatuation? Anyway, just to let you know upfront, you won't find the mediocre yet commercially successful Resident Evil series in this ranking. Also missing are Monster Hunter, Max Payne, Assassin's Creed, or even the 1993 film version of the Super Mario Bros. Although each of these productions is simply bad, I've tried to pick films so awful they're almost good. So let's dive in. Here are the worst of the worst, the creme de la creme of cinematic flops inspired by video games. Let's get started. The adventures of the bald assassin seem like perfect material for a movie, right? But we all know how game adaptations usually turn out. The 2007 Hitman confirmed this by being at best an average action flick. So when someone decided to make another one in 2015, there was hope it would be better. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The creators of Hitman Agent 47 didn't learn from the mistakes of their predecessors and made a film worse than the previous attempt. The plot is cliché, the action sluggish, and action movie fans got nothing to like about this film. Even Rupert Friend's decent acting couldn't save it. Critics and audiences panned the movie, leading to poor viewership. Financially, it might have just broken even, but it was far from a box office hit.
Message from Health Command.
They don't believe they can withstand a Kilrathi battle group without the support of the fleet.
This tactical schematic outlines a nightmare.
We need to wire our fleet 2 hours.
In 1999, fans of games and science fiction films were treated to a monstrosity called Wing Commander. It's an adaptation of the somewhat forgotten series of spaceflight simulators from the early 90s that had dominated the PC market. Unfortunately, as is often the case, the film didn't come close to the level of the game and is considered by many as one of the worst space action movies ever made. The cast wasn't terrible. Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard, young stars of that era. So what went wrong? A weak script, chaotic action, mediocre special effects, even by late 90s standards, and poor references to the game series. The film was so lackluster that with a budget of $30 million, it grossed just under $12 million. Not great, considering the brand's popularity and the cast at the time.
To die out here, but none of us need to be reminded of that fact.
Give him a broadside!
While the first attempt to bring the iconic horror series to the big screen was quite watchable, the 2012 sequel turned out to be hard to digest. Silent Hill: Revelation is a feeble attempt at faithfully adapting the story from the third game. Ultimately, we got a chaotic mishmash that satisfied neither fans of the game nor horror enthusiasts. Adelaide Clemens wouldn't acting as Heather, poor representation of the monsters, weak special effects, and dialogues that insult the viewer's intelligence. The budget was 60% less than the first film, totaling just $20 million, which somewhat excuses the poor quality. Despite scathing reviews, the film grossed over $50 million, so it wasn't a total financial flop. But for Silent Hill fans, that's little consolation.
Go to hell!
We're already here.
In 1994, Street Fighter debuted, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. The movie was average, but holds a place in the hearts of many 90s action cinema fans. However, we're talking about the next attempt to adapt the fighting game, the 2009 Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. Unfortunately, in this case, the saying, "so bad it's good," doesn't apply. Directed by Andrei Bartkowiak, this film is probably his worst production, and the competition in his portfolio is stiff. Poor casting leading to wooden acting, idiotic dialogues, a nonsensical plot, and failed action scenes. Special effects for $13 million, total disaster.
We'll use whatever means necessary to bring the bad guys to justice.
I have to destroy a postal truck filled with lethal microbes before a doomsday cult or a terrorist group destroys the entire world.
Yeah, like I believe.
Enter Uwe Boll, the German director who loves adapting video games. Unfortunately, it seems he's the only one who loves his work, as most viewers and gamers avoid his creations like The Plague. Postal, 2007, is a film heavily inspired by the controversial game of the same name, especially its sequel. The game series is known for its flimsy plot and gratuitous violence, and the film is exactly the same. But unlike the games, it's hard to derive any pleasure from watching it. This is a movie for die-hard connoisseurs of niche cinema who enjoy absurd jokes and senseless violence. Fun fact, Uwe Boll wanted to make a sequel, but couldn't raise even $500,000 on Kickstarter. Ambitious director Uwe Boll took on another game and created its ambitious adaptation. House of the Dead, 2003, is another monumental work by the indefatigable German. The film is dreadful in almost every aspect. The story: a group of young people goes to an island for a rave and gets attacked by zombies. The rest is just them running from the undead. There are no standout acting performances to speak of. The effects are poor, and the whole thing drags on painfully. Even zombie movie fans will grind their teeth. On the plus side, the music comes from the game, so at least Uwe couldn't ruin that.
Now, the only way to make it back alive is to send them all back to the House of the Dead.
A small force might slip through them and solve the problem at its source.
Guess whose production is in fourth place? Yes, Uwe Boll again. In the Name of the King, 2007, is a film inspired by the action RPG Dungeon Siege, 2002. On paper, it had everything to succeed. The largest budget among all the films on this list, $60 million. And an impressive cast: Jason Statham, Ray Liotta, Ron Perlman, Claire Forlani, Lily Sobieski, and Burt Reynolds. Ultimately, it lacked a good script and directorial finesse. The film received scathing reviews and earned just $13 million at the box office. The plot, as usual, didn't make sense, and the whole thing resembled a cheap knockoff of The Lord of the Rings. An artistic and financial failure, and a blemish on the careers of several decent actors.
This is Jack Carver in a really good mood.
Did you know that the first installment of the cult Far Cry series was adapted into a film in 2008? The biggest gaming fan among directors and the worst director among gaming fans, Uwe Boll, struck again. This time, he cast a real European star, Til Schweiger. Yes, the same actor who, a year later in Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards, was taking down Nazis. If the actor's goal was to work with the worst and the best director in such a short time, he succeeded. Back to Far Cry, casting the main character is the only redeeming feature. The rest doesn't make sense. Many important characters from the game were omitted, while new, irrelevant ones were added. The action scenes are on the level of low-budget TV movies, and the setting doesn't capture the game's atmosphere at all.
You are one persistent son of a bitch. Sub-Zero. Scorpion.
The first Mortal Kombat, 1995, though not without flaws, was a significant box office success. The film cost just under $20 million and grossed over $100 million, so we didn't have to wait long for a sequel. Mortal Kombat: Annihilation, 1997, was almost twice as expensive, but arguably twice as bad. The plot? Evil beings come to Earth to destroy it. Only a handful of martial arts masters can save it. But it's not just the script that's the problem. It's the overall quality. The change of director didn't help. The film is dripping with cheesiness, featuring horribly executed fight scenes and amateurish special effects. It's more reminiscent of an episode of Power Rangers than a theatrical release.
Some fears should never be seen.
I don't think we're supposed to be here.
And some terrors can never be stopped.
Surprised? Uwe Boll once again takes the top spot. Alone in the Dark, 2005, is an adaptation of the iconic horror series, starring Christian Slater and Tara Reid. Unfortunately, even recognizable names couldn't help. This film is a total disaster. It shares only the title with the game. You can't even watch it for laughs or as a guilty pleasure. Horrible fight scenes, a nonsensical script, wooden acting, and numerous amateurish mistakes. The best part is the end credits with the song playing over them. Could anything be worse than Alone in the Dark? Maybe Alone in the Dark 2. Yes, the film got a sequel, but without Uwe Boll's involvement. The result? Pretty much the same, just on a smaller scale. And that's the last film adaptation we'd like to forget as soon as possible. Of course, there are many more bad movies based on video game franchises. Which film do you think deserves the title of the worst? Or maybe you actually like one of the adaptations I've mentioned? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, thanks for watching and see you next time. Cheers!